Amérindians talk about going in the night and you're listening to hives. And I have tried, and I think you have to be an Amerindian. No. If you're an Amerindian, you're born and grow in the jungle, and you're not accustomed to loud Western living, then you'll hear hum. They talk about in the night when the forest is quiet, they will have bees that will come to the entrance of the hive and hum loudly to ventilate the hive, right? Since the entrance, you can hear a honeybee hive doing that at night, where the hive is open and you have thousands of bees. When it's just one bee that is in an entrance way that is one bee wide, you're not hearing them. I have tried, and I am a person always in the bush, but I think if you've grown up in a Western lifestyle with noise, you're deaf to that level of noise, so forget that. So unless you come across a nest, you stumble on the nest, you fall over it, head first into it, and the pig won't run you, you're not going to find a nest. You're not going to find a nest. So it's forget about locating nests anyway, right? We're going to talk about boxing the nest. Before you can harvest any, you have to box the nest. The 4 bees you're looking to keep is the walnut, the eric, the pagan, the petit argel. Those are the 4 bees. The bees that you're going to be keeping have 2, these are honey pots. This is where you're going to get your honey and your pollen. This is the brood comb. Now the bees that you're going to be keeping have 2 types of brood comb. They either look like this, stacked pancakes, right? Stacked discs with supporting on 2 pillars in between, or a bunch of grapes. The one that is the petit angel, that is a bunch of grapes, you can't separate that. You can't split them. If you find the nest, you take the whole bunch of grapes, you locate your queen, because the queen cannot fly, she has a large distended abdomen. Cannot fly. You take her, work her into a little container with a feather, and separate her, take the whole brood out and put it in a box. Right? These, you do the same thing. You take the whole, we're talking about a wild hive. You've found a wild hive, you split the log, you've opened the wall, right? Wherever the hive is located. These, you will take the whole brood out and put it into the brood box. Don't put any of this stuff into the box. You don't put any honey pots or any pollen pots into the box, because once you touch these, they will be damaged, they will leak, and they will attract pests that will go in and lay eggs on it and make maggots. And then the maggots will move from the food stores to the brood and destroy the whole nest. So you just move the brood. Okay? The honey has to be separated from the pollen. The pollen will be mixed with honey and put into pots, and the honey will be put into separate pots. The pots look alike. So you have to go through. You have to go through. You take it out from the wild hive and you put it in a basin. You have your brood in the box, separate, clean, no honey with it, and you have to go through your pots and find the pollen. You're harvesting all the honey for yourself. You don't give the bees any of the honey back. You're making a simple syrup, 50% sugar, 50% water, and you feed them with simple syrup. Okay? That will be less of an attractor to the pests than the real honey. The pollen, they need the pollen. You can't just feed them sugar water. The pollen has to be taken out of the pots individually. Right? You have to get a very small spoon. There are these little air spoons that you can buy. Take wax out of human ears. A little silver spoon. You use that and you scoop it out, and you pack it into sweet drink covers, like the cover of a gelita bottle. You pack it into that, and then in the pharmacies you can buy little blocks of honeybee wax. You melt it, and once it is packed tightly into the sweet drink cover, you give it one quick dip in molten honeybee wax. So it's capped. Okay? And then you put all those bottle caps into your hive. Okay? One of them, you score the top. It's a very thin layer of wax, but it's sealed, so it's not giving off scent to the pest. You score it with a straight pin. And once you've scored it with a straight pin, the bees will realize that they have wax, there is pollen on the wax, and they will open it up. And then when they finish feeding on that, they now realize that the other pots have pollen in it. They will start to cut the other pots. Right? So that is how you have to put the pollen into the nest once you've boxed it. Because there is a fly that goes in and lays over everything. And it's a tiny little fly, and it will wipe out your hive very quickly. And the larger bees are very susceptible to these flies. The hive is dark, they can't see what's going on inside. The flies are tiny, about the size of a sour fly, a fruit fly, and they will be all in between the legs of the bees, and the bees won't know they're there. Now, for the splitting of this, the one that the brood looks like a bunch of grapes. They make very few queen cells. And so the queen cell is about the same size as a regular worker cell in the petiagel. So you cannot, and to separate a bunch of grapes, you're destroying all the brood cells in it. So you're killing a lot of workers. But this, so forget about splitting petiagel hives. There's another way for making new hives in petiagel. This will apply to the walnut, eric, and the pagan. Now, each disc on a bee that produces this type of brood, each disc will have one or more queen cells per disc. They will always be on the outside edge of the disc, and they will be always larger than the more prevalent worker cell. So all you need to do, right, is once you have an active hive already boxed from your wild hive, and it has now regained strength, you split the tower of brood into two. So if you have 8 brood, you split 4 into the new box and leave 4 in the old box. And you can move the queen can stay in any side, it doesn't matter, because they have, each one of these discs will have queen cells. Okay? You have to move workers. You have to move workers across. This is where this comes in. This is something called a bee vacuum. Very simple. They have one with real using shock wax and all kind of things. But all you have to do is you have to split your workers in the colony in half. So you have to take half the workers over to the new daughter hive. So you're gonna hyperventilate. Right? Because you have to be sucking up your workers. One side has wire in it, so that once the bees get in here, they cannot come up, they can't breathe in the bees. One side has a little bit of a cutlass iron wire stuffed into it. And this you'll have to use this for pagan, for eric, and for walnut. Now, some walnut hives, when you tap on the box, they will come out. Other walnut hives, when you tap on the box, they all go in. The one that is at the guard at the door, he goes in and they all get quiet. So you have to know your hive. If you have walnut that come out, they will just come out and fly around. I have seen walnut attack people once, but only once. So you have to know your bees. Generally speaking, you have to use a bee vacuum to harvest up workers to put into your new hive. Petiagel, you just put a bottle like this over the hive and knock the box. And they will come out, they will readily come out and fill and give you workers. When you are doing this, you have to do this. When you split in the hive, you have to do it in the evening time. Because the workers that are collected cannot be put into the new hive before dark. You go to the hive after dark, remove the cover, and tap the bottom of the bottle, and all the workers will just fall in and you close it back. If you split the hive in the morning and you have the worker bees in here whole day without food, they're all buzzing around, hyper energetic, you're trying to get back to their hive, they're going to burn out their food stores and they're going to die of exhaustion. They're going to come in and find a whole bottle of dead bees. So this has to be done from about 3-4 o'clock. Okay? This is a bunch of grapes. Right? This is what the petiagel type of bee will produce. You cannot divide that. You cannot divide this. This, every 3 months, bees that produce brood like this can be divided. Every 3 months, a hive, if the hive is being fed on syrup, every 3 months the hive can be split. Once the weather is dry, you never go into a hive in rainy weather with these bees, because then the forage flies, their population is up. You never store manure anywhere close to a bee, because the forage flies breed in manure, so you're going to have a higher population of forage flies in the environment. Only go into the hives when you have nice sunny weather, and these can be split every 3 months once they've been fed. These cannot be split at all. The petillage gel cannot be split at all, because as you can see, separating this, to separate this hive, this brood here, all you need is an icing knife. The knives you use to have ice cakes, you get one and you bend it like an L, and you stick it between the layers, and you prise it apart, and you can take the whole top half of the brood off. And what you do is you take bits of wax. When you put it in the new box, you take bits of wax and you roll it into little balls the size of maybe a pigeon pea, and you rest 4 of them, and you rest the brood on top of that, so the bees can get underneath to clean out any damage, any cells that you have damaged in handling. They can pull out everything from inside that cell and dispose of it. Right? You rest it, so it's not resting flat on the bottom of the box. Okay? This, you would completely destroy that if you try to split that in two. You'd have to take a knife or something and cut it down. That would just be a mess. And they don't make a lot of queen cells. So to split hives, what I have done is I have come up on my own technique. Is I have made a lure from wild hives that I have boxed. Once you box it, you find a hive living in a red brick wall. You break open the wall, you take out all the honey and everything, and you box the brood. And then once you have removed the honey from the pot, you take all the remnants and you put it, and all the extraneous wax and resonance that is found inside the hive. You take it and you put it in isopropyl alcohol, right? And you just make a lure. Dissolve into the isopropyl alcohol, and you make empty boxes, coat the inside with that mixture, and it has the smell of the bees. And the more hives you have, the more of a chance you will have of that hive splitting off in the dry season and going into one of your lure boxes. So you get one hive in a wall, you put that hive in your garage, and you put 2 empty boxes that have been baited with the lure next to it. And in the dry season, you will see a big cloud of bees. Usually, they will split once for the dry season and make one daughter hive, if it's the angel. The chances of them going into the 2 empty boxes that are impregnated with the correct scent is greater than them going and looking to make a nest in a bamboo patch somewhere, right? So, the more bees you have in your garage, is the more of a chance you're going to get captured hives, right? But that is the only way to split this. But you have to get a hive to get the scent, to make a lure, and then you start rolling. These can be split every 3 months. Okay? You get these in the pharmacy with sulfur powder and different things in it. If you go to BNS Pharmaceuticals in Caroni, you can buy these by the bag. Okay? You bore 5 holes in the top, small enough that the bee cannot get in. Right? These holes have actually been closed up with resin because I had put these in a box with plebia, and the plebia went in and filled it up from resin. They have resin on the inside, right? But even if you put it in with vinyl, you don't want the hole big enough that the bee can get in. You just want it big enough that a sour fly, a fruit fly, you get around rotten fig can get in, right? Although it's not that fly, it's a foreign that we put in bait for. The bees will still block it up with resin on the outside. They don't want this inside the hive. They don't want the smell. You put apple cider vinegar in this. The sour smell of the apple cider vinegar attracts the forage fly. And the forage fly, when they get in the hive, they will go in here. Not all of them will go in here. We're going to catch a large majority of them. They will go in here instead of going to damage honey pots or damage, because you're going to damage brood. Moving the brood across to the new box, you're going to damage it. And that in itself is going to attract the forage flies. So you're going to get forage flies coming in. The forage flies will go in here and drown in the apple cider vinegar. So every 2 or 3 days you have to reopen your box and make sure the holes are clear. And only use Bragg's or Hives. Real apple cider vinegar. Don't use apple cider flavored vinegars. Don't use white vinegar. They have literature that will tell you any vinegar. No. Apple cider vinegar. I've tried all different kind of. I've tried wine that gone sour. No. Only apple cider. Apple cider vinegar has the best results. Right? They are attracted to the apple cider vinegar because the honey and the pollen of the stingless bee is highly acidic. So they are.
You're not seeing.
They are mistaking the apple cider vinegar for damaged honey pots or pollen pots. That is they're mistaken it, and they see the apple cider vinegar has a stronger smell than honey. So once you get into the hive, they're smelling the damaged. What they're going to be attracted into the hive for, even though you're not putting in the pollen and the honey pots, you're feeding them simple syrup, and you're putting the pollen into the sweet drink bottle caps and dipping it to make sure there is no damaged stuff around the hive, damaged food stores. You are damaging the brood. You are going to damage the brood. Just by holding it, it's very thin wax on the outside of the cells, you're going to damage it. And the stingless bees are total provisionals in that when a honeybee has the brood cell, they lay the egg in the cell and the cell remains open, and the workers keep coming and feeding the larva until it reaches the stage where it wants to pupate, and then the cell is capped. In the stingless bees, they are total provisionals. In other words, the queen does not go and lay an egg in an empty cell and then the workers feed it. The workers fill the cell with all the food that is needed for the entire life of the larva. And then the queen passes around, and when she sees cells that have been filled with stores, then she lays her egg on it. And immediately after laying the egg, they have workers that follow the queen that catch the cell. So any damaged cell, you're going to have the smell of pollen and honey permeating the hive. And that is going to pull in the forage flies, which are going to turn the whole hive into mush. So you have, depending on the bee, you have to be diligent, because certain bees will clean a newly boxed hive very diligently. Other bees, if you don't clean it, that's it, it's dead. Okay? And this is simple to make. The vacuum. This is your in-hive forage fly trap, and this is your outside the hive forage fly trap. It's a jam bottle with your mask, with your duct tape. What happens? You put your vinegar in here. Fly goes in, is attracted back upwards to the light coming through the clear cap. Right? More light is coming in through the top and 3 sides, and they come up. Now, around here, I use baby bell cheese. Baby bell cheese has a red wax around it that does not dry, it does not get hard. No matter how many times you use it, and you take it off to change your vinegar, you can take off the baby bell wax, work it like plasticine, and put it back. I suppose you could get the same, I don't even know if they still sell baby bell cheese. I have a big ball of that wax. I suppose you could get the same effect if you take beeswax and melt it with increasing increments of Vaseline until you get that wax. Because you want this to be sealed down, properly sealed down with the wax, and then the forage flies will go in there. You need to have bees at all times around your hives, especially in the rainy season. Things you need when you're dealing with stingless bees. Very simple, right? You're gonna want some putty knives, right? This is really only needed for the pagon. This is really only needed for the pagon and the net, because they don't sting. But pagon, you'll get in a strong pagon hive, you'll get about 30,000 workers, and they will come out and they will bite all your eyes, your nose, everywhere. Now, the smoker in a honeybee, what happens is, in a honeybee, the honeybee queens can fly, they can abscond. So when they smell smoke, they think a fire is coming to destroy the hive. So all the workers will drink as much honey as possible in preparation for leaving the area with the queen to go and escape the fire and form a new hive. And once they drink all that honey and their honey stomach is full, then they get lethargic and they don't want to sting as much as us, right? But stingless bees, the queens cannot fly. The queens cannot fly. So the smoke has to be, and especially using the smoke on the P1, which is a very aggressive bee. They cannot fill their honey stomachs because they know the queen cannot fly, so they're not going to do that. They're just going to come out and attack you. The smoke has to be something that will drug the bees. Okay, so not just regular smoke. The honeybee men just use cardboard and Celotex, all kind of things they use. This has to be a smoke that will drug the bees. What I have found works very well on the pagon is clove. Clove leaves. If you have a clove tree, the leaves smell just like clove, and clove is an anesthetic in itself. So the clove anesthetizes the bees and they get, okay? For, you want a big basin, you want to sit. A feather will work better to get your queen into a little container like this if it's a petit angel, because the queens are going to be really tiny. You can use a brush. You can use a brush for the walnut and the paper, a small paintbrush. Okay? Okay. Go back to the a picture of the hive. So you can see honey pot. One of the good honey pots.
You want to see what the coal pot is for? Is that a coal pot answer?
Yeah, the coal pot you can use that on a pagan hive. You want the smoker, but you want the coal pot too before you breach a pagan hive. You put your what I've found that works well too with the pagan is termite nest. Termite nest, I believe it has the termites produce camphor or naphthalene. There's something that the termites produce that it's very good for mosquitoes, and it works on the bees. So if you have a big piece of dry termite nest and you put that in the coal pot and you push it there with a stick on the pagan and step back, they will calm down, and as they start to break open the hive again, they're going to have the workers inside that did not get that, and you don't want to be in the full heavy smoke, so you use your clove inside the smoker, the honeybee smoker. Once you open the hive, you want to have somebody stand up next to you, puffing that smoke all the time. So this is for pagan. These three things are for pagan. The other bees, they don't really need much in protection. They're not going to really attack you. Okay. Alright? They do not put their honey in combs like honeybees. Honeybees, you can get them to build their comb in a frame. You can put the frame in a centrifuge and spin out the honey. Take the capping knife and remove the cap, spin out the honey in a centrifuge. All the variations, you cut out the honeycomb, put it in a honey press. That's back in the days when they were using the wax to make candles. So you get your wax, you get your honey. These bees put their honey in pots. Okay? You're gonna have, let us say you have the walnut. Now the walnut, which is the one that makes the pancake hive. When they come in here, the entrance, they will make a wax tube on the inside of the hive that will come from the inner opening, come down to the floor, and make an L. Okay? Then they will make their brood as close to the entrance as possible. You're going to have all your honey pots and pollen pots to the back. Away, it is very popular in South America to use a small vacuum to break open the top of the pot and suck out the honey. Break open the top of the pot and suck out the honey. I don't like that. I scoop out everything. Scoop out everything because when you look at a sealed pot, you cannot tell the honey, the wax is brown. So you cannot tell if it is pollen in the pot or honey in a closed pot. When you break open a pot and you see, no, that pollen, no, I want that. Pollen, I want that. Oh, honey, I want that. And you suck out the honey. You now have two open pollen pots. That letting out a lot of fumes that attract any forest flies. You scoop everything out, put it in a big sieve, right? Honey and pollen don't mix. Honeybee men don't know that. The pollen will flow. So you roughly break up everything, and your honey will drain out through the sieve, your pollen will stay behind, and you can harvest your pollen separately. You can now go back and pick through the pots and pick out the pollen, right? The honey goes through the sieve, and it is bottled. Also, the vacuuming of the honey aerates the honey and can cause spoilage in the honey, right? It can cause spoilage in the honey, right? Depending on how clean your stuff is, and not only spoilage in the honey. This honey, stingless bee honey is a lot higher in water than honeybee honey. And what is the preservative in it? What is the preservative in it? Is the high, one of the preservatives is the high acid content. Okay? And the high acid content is because each bee has their own particular strain of yeast and either lactic acid bacteria or acetic acid bacteria that after the yeast ferments some of the sugars into alcohol, it turns it into acetic acid. Now, when you drain out the honey, you are not aerating the honey. And anybody who making wine knows when air hits the alcohol turns into vinegar. So when you aerate the honey with a suction pump and it comes out frothy on the other end, you're really putting a lot of oxygen into your honey. So the honey now, you're going to lose a lot more of your sugars into vinegar. So you're going to end up, it's not going to spoil in the sense that it's bad. You're going to end up with honey vinegar. You're not going to end up with honey. So the shelf life of your honey is going to crash. You're going to end up with honey vinegar here. Right? Something to make, it makes a really nice pepper sauce. It makes a really nice pepper sauce, but it's not gonna stay honey for long. If you use it through a sieve and you stabilize it, it's gonna stay there permanently. It's not gonna go bad. Okay? When you scrape out all your pots, you will notice that the bees build pots on top of pots. So if you're just breaking a couple to the top, you're not getting inside there, and you're going to have a build-up of waste. You might get some sort of mites or something in your hive. You're going to want to clean out your hives on a regular basis. Just like when you go into a honeybee hive, you can take out the combs and see what's going on and remove the super boxes and clean them out and put them back. With these hives, you don't want them to get too dirty inside. So it's a good thing to scrape out all the honey pots and the pollen pots and start anew. What I like, I'm just going to the hive design in a small way. What I think is the best hive design for, I keep my pétillagelles in a hive like this. Pétillagelles are the ones that produce the brood that looks like a bunch of grapes. They don't make much honey. They make about 90 mils per hive per year, $50 a teaspoon. But what they do, they are different to the others. They make their bunch of grapes as far away from the entrance as possible. Okay? So, I used to keep in boxes like this. I am now going to a box that is 4 inches wide in the interior and long. So when they go in at the end, it's mimicking a row of red bricks in a wall. If you see the entrance of a pétillagelle hive here in a red brick wall, it's right to the other end of that horizontal row of blocks. They go right as far as they can go. When you put it in a long box and the brood is as far away from the entrance as possible, you just scrape out everything, hold the box at an angle, and let the honey drain out, and then cap it back. And they will reboot everything. This is a Melapona beachy or Zunin cab. This is the royal bee of the Mayans. How the Mayans kept them was in the logs that they were found in. And what they would do is they would cut the log. You see the entrance here on the side of the log, and they would keep cutting the log up until they broke into the cavity that the bees were in. And what they would do is the brood would be in the center, right here behind the entrance, and then on either side they would have their honey pots. they would block up the two holes with a clay disc or a stone disc with mud. Okay? And every year they would come, and this year they would open this side and scrape out all the honey and pollen from the brood back to this end, and then block it up. And then next year they would go on the other side. So there would always be a store of honey and nectar left for the bees. With the Melapona, I have come up with the idea that I believe simplicity is best. They have all kind of fancy high designs that are real complicated and with all kind of pieces fitting together, and that's places for ants and flies to get in. And so I think the best is a log design but made in a box. So instead of the entrance in here, the entrance is here. Okay? The interior of the box has a wall, two walls, so that the brood is right on the other side of the entrance. Two walls on the interior that come right up flush to the top, like the two end walls here. And you can put plastic. I use the transparent plastic that you cover school books with. You get two kinds, a sticky one and a non-sticky one. You use the non-sticky one. And your brood is in the center here. You have holes in the interior wall, so they can go from the brood chamber to the honey chambers. And every year you open it up and you scrape out everything on this side this year. Next year you scrape out everything on this side. And there are no pieces that fit together. There's nothing like that. It is just, and if you'll notice, there's a thing where in these you're screwing down the covers so that they fit tight and you don't get the flies going in. No. I use baby bell cheese, smear it along here, and then you put down your plastic. And your plastic sticks in baby bell cheese, the flies cannot get in, and you just rest the cover on top to keep out the light. Because if light gets in, you can rest a piece of black Bristol board now on top of the plastic, and then this board on top. Because any light that gets in, the bees will put a layer of resin to block out the light. The bees don't want light. So you will come back, and if light is getting in, if it's a skew like that and light is getting, you will come back and find that the bees have put a big layer of resin. And that's going to be a problem when you open up the hives to see about them, because the resin will eventually harden. Right? So it's very simple. Very simple. Right? A basic box design. Right? And that way you're only ever taking half of the stores of your bee. But every year you are cleaning out one side. So any kind of pests that are getting in there, you're not going to get a buildup of poop, because they have little latrine dumps they have inside the hive. Right? You're not going to build up of excrement. You're not going to get a buildup of possible mites or any kind of pathogens inside of there. Every year you clean it out, and once you take out everything on that side, you wipe it out. Wipe it out good with just a damp cloth. Right? Wipe it out, because if there is spilled honey inside of there, or spilled pollen from taking out the pot, it will attract the foreign flies to go in. Okay, so you wipe it out with a damp cloth and seal it back, and good to go. For the honey, once the honey is passed through a sieve, and you're taking out all the little bits of the honey pots and stuff, little bits of wax and stuff, the honey just has to be put into a jar, and it's self-preserving. The real work is with the pollen. You have to go through the pots and pick out the pollen, scoop out the pollen, and there is sale for the pollen. Depending on the type of bee and what's feeding on, the pollen can be actually very acidic or very sweet. You had to go into the pest, because when you're opening up the hives, you have to be aware that you're going to get the pest. The main pest is the forest fly. The forest fly. Then you have to look out for ants. Certain ones of the bees are much more susceptible to ants than other bees. Right? The ants are going to want to go in and feed on the larva, feed on the honey. Right? Then those are the two you have to be wary of when you're opening up the hive. This is a forest fly here. Basically, as an amateur, you can tell the forest fly, and they're going to be way too small for you to see them this clearly. They run. They're not like, they're about the same size, and some of them are close to the same color as the sour flies you get around rotten fruit flies, Drosophila. But these are a completely different genus, and they run. sour flies, you pass your hand by rotten fruit and they just all raise up. These run. And they run in a very erratic zigzag. They have, I'm not sure, as far as I can see, there are 3 forage flies. They're well more than that, but there are 3 forage flies that affect the bees. Only females will be found inside the hive. There is a big and a small that is found inside the hive, right? That goes into lay maggots, lay eggs and produce maggots on the brood and stuff. And there is a 3rd one that has a very large ovipositor, and she holds it between her legs. And when the larger bees, she looks like a forage fly, I'm not sure if it's a forage fly genus. When the larger bees, the walnut and the eric, are landing, if there is high activity in the hive, so that there are bees on the outside waiting to go in and out, you'll see her on the outside of the hive and she will run up to the bee and lay an egg inside the bee. She actually jabs the bee with her ovipositor and lays an egg inside the bee. I'm not sure if it's a forage fly, it looks like a forage fly, but that is a pest on the outside of the hive. And what I have found is that forages can be kept away from the outside of the hive by putting crapo seed oil around the outside of the entrance. Right, there's a seed we have here in Trinidad. In the highwood, people they make the oil for arthritis and cold. It's a herbal medicine, but I got that from fellows in South America using it around the. You get the crapo seed oil all day. You smell the crapo seed oil. That's a deterrent to the forage flies, and it's also a deterrent to this one that lays eggs in the live bee itself. Compared to honeybees, because of the amount of resin that is in their nests. Their nests are loaded with resin, and resin is antibacterial, antifungal, right? And then some of the bees actually produce salivary compounds that are, right? The trapping of the swarms, you have to have lure. You build your boxes, right? And you bait your box with the stuff found inside a hive. I've been doing this so long that I have one bottle of lure I use. Every hive I find, once I box it and take out the onion, all the guts and everything is thrown into there. All the wax and so it has the smell of walnut, it has the smell of pegon, it has the smell of all the bees in it. So it's a multi-species lure. In South America, they bait all kind of things. They bait plastic bottles, the big plastic 5-gallon, 5-liter plastic bottles. They get dish soap pulling in, they bait that, and they get hives going into there. The Tetra packs, the cardboard packs, they get milk and juicing in. I have never gotten the bamboo pods. Professor Starr was asking me about that when he was here. And I have never gotten anybody to go into a bamboo pod. And he says neither is he either, but in Asia, in India, they keep them in bamboo pods, they get them going into bamboo pods and colonizing on their own. The only thing I've ever gotten bees to go into is a wooden box. Right? That is the only thing. But with the wooden boxes, when you bait your wooden box, you have to go every day and take a stick and poke in the hole. Because what happens is we have a bee down here called euglossine bees. They're either metallic blue or metallic green. They're orchid bees. And they're semi-solitary. They're not quite solitary, but they don't have. Several females will lay the eggs in the box, but each female is on her own. They're not structured like a honeybee or a stingless bee nest. And what they will do is, they say have 3 or 4 females that come in here, they lay the eggs and they make their little wax pots, resin, they use resin. They make their little resin pots and lay the eggs, and then they will seal up the hole. So you think you have a box there, and you're passing and you're waiting, and expecting to catch a colony of bees, and that has been sealed up. So you have to come every day and poke it out. Right? Generally speaking, the concrete between the blocks will have a little gap somewhere, and they will go in there. right? So they love the red block walls. Once the building has not been completely plastered, you'll get right. The walnut, they are all hollow trees. The walnut and the eric. The laurier macaque is a tree that naturally becomes hollow, and it gives itself away because it starts sending up suckers from down low. It realizes it's becoming hollow and will get blown over in high winds, and it starts sending up suckers. And those trees usually, if you find a big laurier macaque and you have enough patience and you just stand up when you're looking back, you will see bee coming one at a time, coming and leaving, flying in. They don't listen. They do not loiter outside of the nest. It's just zip in, zip out. You're not gonna see a big set of bees on the outside, right? Only if they're swarming, right? But if you see a laurier macaque and it's a big laurier macaque, 10 to 1 you'll find a hive. And up there in Brasso, they're full of walnut and eric. Your honey, your wax, after you get all the honey out of the pots, you can melt the wax, and which is not pure wax, it's wax and resin, and you can mix it with fat. The best fat I have found is hog fat. You go and you get the hog fat, and you render it, and you mix it with the cerumen from the bees, which is a mixture of wax and resin, and it makes very good dubbing. Very, very good dubbing. Okay? You want a 50-50 brown sugar. I know some guys keeping honeybees and they say that the brown sugar causes diarrhea in honeybees.
Yeah, he's right.
Well, that don't make any difference to the stingless bees. The stingless bees eating the brown sugar, no problem. Right? So 50-50 brown sugar and water. You can add to that, you can add stinging nettle. Our stinging nettle, there was work. I have a paper.
Which one are you saying that? The leaf one?
Yeah, the zooty. Red or green stem, it don't matter. The zooty. Yeah, the zooty that they use to make baji. Right, that one. Not the man zooty, which is a tree. No, not that. Now, our stinging nettle is not real stinging nettle. Because our stinging nettles are wood nettles. They are annuals. True old world stinging nettle is a perennial. It grows back from a rhizome and it spreads under the ground. Work now, I just figured they're closely enough related, it should work. It's not poisonous, I eat it all the time. Work was done by a university. I have the scientific paper on my computer. By a university in Romania, that through folklore, different beekeepers for years have said there is benefits of putting different herbs into the simple syrup, like peppermint, and they tried with all different herbs to increase the numbers in here, like a tonic, that added nutrients to the simple syrup. And they found the only one that really had a marked increase was the sting nettle, the European sting nettle. So it is more, it's not really a medicine. We have 9 bees recognized in Trinidad. We actually have more, but 9 are recognized as being here. But they're not all viable for commercial use. If the viable ones for commercial use are basically your 2 melopona, which is your walnut and your eric, the petit angel, and the pagon. And there is one called Irai, Nanotrigona, Testosicornis, which is viable if you can get hives and you can split them. They make stacked hives. You can split them because there is a market for that in Northern Europe for pollination inside totally enclosed greenhouses. So like up in Iceland and Greenland and stuff, right? They use those, right? But besides that, they don't serve. They're not going to produce anything out of commercial value. And then we have a whole lot of other bees. We have plebeids, and we have this, the Parthomona nigrio, which is prized, but is almost impossible to keep. Right? They have some people in South America that can keep them, and other people can't keep them, and nobody knows why. Some people are okay with it, and some people are not okay with it. That's just how it is.
I want to believe you personally talk about this guy from South America. I had the opportunity of visiting him, and in his yard, probably had a bee house that is about the size of that shed, and there he had over 100 stingless bees colonies in boxes. But that is Brazil. So maybe their environment could sustain that amount.
I would say so. You see, stingless bees don't travel that far. Once you have, like alright, this 30-acre estate. This 30-acre estate, when you have a petillage that will travel at a maximum of 1,000 feet, right? You just have to make sure that what you have planted is what that particular species likes.
Right.
Okay? Because the petillagel are the primary pollinator of Zabuca. You love Zabuca. Right? If you plant a Zabuca estate and you have petillagel, they're going to other things besides Zabuca, but the amount of petillagel you will have, because they're not traveling far. Right? And then again, what I have found is invariably, wherever I get one of honey, it's always the same. Whereas as honeybees, their honey varies what they're feeding on. So it seems that the stingless bees in Trinidad, in the New World, and I suppose the stingless bees in Africa and the stingless bees in Asia, they have evolved there, and they have specialized within that environment on certain plants. So really and truly, the petillagel is not going to really compete with the walnuts. They have been here for millions of years, and they have decided, well, hell, I got feed on this flower, I got feed on that flower. The honeybee reach here now, he just scrambled to get whatever he could get, because he's a generalist. Because where the honeybee comes from in Europe and Africa is mainly honeybee and bumblebee. And they have different length tongues, so they got to do their own specification too. But the honeybee is a generalist. Whereas, because he up there in Europe all by himself to pollinate everything. Okay? Whereas down here we have so many stingless bees, and in South America it's even worse. Right? So they've specialized. The only stingless bee I have come across that has made two kinds of honey is the pagan. The pagan I have come across that has they have made in the Highwood down in, I think once was up North Coast, hunting up North Coast, in a place called Lagoon, in that real deep inside the forest up in it's like a crater where there is I think it might be an old volcano or something, because there is no way out. There are mountains right around, and everything goes down into the center into this little round lake in the forest. That's up in Las Cuevas area. That right inside, where they go up Rincon, go right up inside. The fellas up in there will know it. You can't get to the edge of the water because it's like peat. So it really and truly, that's only a place of 1 century, because if you run dog, the lap will just run and go into the water and swim, and the dog, you can't get out there because it's sinking down in peat. Long before you get to where it's water, it's like a bog. I think it was up there. And a surety the other place was in Guayaguayare. I came across, Guaya was the first place I came across it, a pagan hive on the ground. And I know pagan. I grew up with a pagan nest in my yard in Woodbrook. I light my fire, dogs running, I say, well, I done with them fellas, let them run their dog. My dog in the park too, but I built my fire and I start to smoke them, I get good ants nest, I start to smoke, break open the hive, and I came across a sky blue honey. Right? Sky blue. I took the honey. I eat the honey that I taken out of. Then I woke up the next morning. Yeah, I woke up the next morning. Woke up the next morning with a terrible headache to hear my partners calling me. And I disappeared. They don't know where I go, and they say, well, trap gun kill me or anaconda, because down there, this was going on in a place. There's a place where they have some black anacondas, right? I pass out, sleep out the whole night, the most vivid dreams. And then the second time I came across it, it seems that they were, and it's not common. It's not common. So it seems to be a monofloral honey. The vine or whatever making the flowers is not very common, because you don't see that honey in the pagans all the time, and it maybe doesn't bear every year or whatever. But when I came across a pagan nest again in sure. But when I came up with easy paper nest again on them, I broke it open. Right? I was another nest I got on the ground. Broke it open and I found sky blue honey again. And I spent another night lying out people anyway.
And I would have wanted to.
All right,
Yeah.
folks.
Right.
Interesting discussion. We could be here all morning, I'm sure.
When you go and harvest the hive's normally on the outside of something. Like the one that I boxed over there was on the outside of a miniature date palm. So is it that they don't like being enclosed? But is there a way of me boxing them and then opening the box so that they're no longer enclosed? And that
What I
way-
tell you last time about my idea of the coconut shells?
Yeah.
Was you ever right?
No, I don't think.
Okay, well hell, go to a picture with like
But is there anything I could do with once I box them in a box like that?
Okay, now here what? That each bee has a different kind of nest. You have certain bees that are ground nesters, stingless bees that are ground nesters. So because certain bees nest in wood, certain bees nest in ground, these nest in dirt nests, exposed, they're going to want different levels of humidity. Okay? I've tried nesting them in clay pots, it don't work. I tried nesting them in clay pots buried in the ground. It don't work. I've tried nesting them in wooden boxes. It does not work. And in South America, when you see people on the internet keeping them, it's in wooden boxes. Not Partamona nigrior, but Partamonas, which is very similar to this, right? The entrance is slightly different, but okay.
But once I have them in a box like that, is there any way of me opening the box so that they could now maybe cover the
Well,
outside of the box?
my idea. There is a bee in the Philippines. I don't have a. You see, I tried this because this is of a hive of a bee called Scaptotrigona mexicana. The Nahuatl Indians in Mexico keep these. And I was figuring, well, okay, I put it in clay pots and I put it pot in the ground. It didn't work. I box another hive and I put it outside where it would get rain. Because I would figure the terracotta would allow it to breathe and moisturing to pass. It did not work. Now, these bees are one of the most common of our stingless bees because a lot of the time they don't need a cavity to make their nest. All of our stingless bees are cavity nesters. Okay? These bees are cavity nesters and they're not cavity nesters. In the sense that all the other bees, the nest is completely enclosed in a cavity, whether it's inside a wall, inside a tree. If the tree has a large hole, they will block up the entire hole with something called bitumen, which is a mixture of clay, resin, dirt, and plant fibers. I guess like cement. And it'll just leave a passage one bee wide. Okay. These bees make a nest like a wood ant's nest, a dirt nest. You know, more out of the material. You know, the ant they call haliquel, that makes the long nest hanging from the citrus trees. They make right. It's like this. This is almost like no, so you might make the wrong nest, but they have a haliquel nest hanging right there.
Yeah, is it flattish?
It's like a stalactite hanging up. Okay. This and the pagon don't need a cavity to hold the entire nest. When they're starting a new colony, all they need is somewhere to sequester the queen before she becomes gravid and her abdomen swells and she can't fly anymore. So she will leave the mother hive and go to a new location. And what a location that these bees really like are wild pines. The queen will go into the roots of the wild pine and they will wall her up inside the roots with dirt and whatever that is made from. And then they will start to extend the hive outwards. And you'll get this big thing looking like a wooden hive. But once they have started to build that hive, they will break the wall of the queen's chamber and she will come out into a larger chamber. They just sequester in that first little chamber to protect her. But they're going to make much larger hives. So I was thinking, I haven't tried it yet, but there is a bee in the Philippines that makes a nest like that. And what they do is they make a big tree, like out of square birdcage wire. right? With four wires coming up, so it's like a hanging basket, with a big square rectangular tray with a shallow wall of the same wire going around square hardware cloth, right?
Yeah.
And then they put the hive that they get in a wild vine, or in the roots of a vine, and they put that on the tree just like that. They break it out from the tree. They don't box it in, and it just rests there on the wire. And then they take empty coconut shells and rest around it. And the bees extend from their hive into the empty coconut shells, and all around the edge of the empty coconut shell that is exposed to air. Air can get in. They seal up with this kind of mixture. Right? And when you come to harvest now, you just take off the shells on top, and you'll find inside of the shells have now been covered with honey pots. And you just scrape out the honey and you put it back. And they seal it back. So I have wanted to try doing that, but I haven't gotten around to it.
But
Right.
there would be no way to like open a box like that. Like what Earl was.
No,
you were saying, like to
Because
just
I-
sort of
I
bust
have-
the side or
I have a
something.
hive that I boxed 2 months ago because it was growing on the cabin there
Well,
and we were doing
that's still
renovations.
young.
It's still young, but I'm wondering if I can just open the top, or will that now let the forage flies in,
That will
or
let the forage flies
or will
in.
they seal it?
They-
Or can
that-
I put a piece of glass or plastic on top so that they use the light
You
and
know
they
what you-
start
you know
sealing
what-
things off, and then I take off the
What you
plastic?
could try is getting a piece of cotton cloth, real tight weave cotton, and put the whole thing, a cotton on top.
And then let them seal.
So let
things
it
up.
breathe there, and they will
Yeah.
seal up what they want, and then they might leave open a certain amount to let the correct amount of
Moisture.
moisture in.
Alright, okay.
You could try that. Because what happens with these is once you box them, as you can see, this
Yeah.
box is full.
Really
Right?
imagine how.
They completely fill up the box, and then after about a year, you start to see the traffic start to lessen. I have boxed over and over, and what eventually happens is the queen comes out. You eventually see the queen, she comes out and she starts to walk around all by a little lonesome, and when you open the box, there's nobody there. And the queen is the last man standing. Right? So it's not that something that's killed the queen, and there's no one there to re-queen, and I do, and this is the exact same thing that they witness in South America. So we don't know. But their honey is very good honey.
What type of wood you use to make the
You could use any kind of wood. Just make sure it is not pine from inside the hardware that has been sprayed. I have made that mistake already. But I would recommend either cedar or teak because it's termite resistant. Right? It's termite resistant. The cedar or teak.
And David, is the box kept indoors or outdoors, or is it kept
Well, you can keep it outdoors. You have to put a piece of galvanized on top of it. In South America, they make little individual stands and have them all about, and they put a piece of galvanized and 2 rocks and keep the rain off of it. But you have to keep them indoors in Trinidad because invariably people in your neighborhood are going to find out. If it's not this year, it's going to be next year, the year after, and they're going to steal it. The pipers are going to come and they're going to steal your honeybee hives, your Stingless bee hives. They are very susceptible to being stolen. They have bees in South America that are kept alongside. There is a Stingless bee called cacafogo, shits fire, that they keep alongside these hives, other species, because their thing is the watchdog hive. They bite you and they spit. I think I'm not sure if it's formic acid or acetic acid, but very strong acid into the wound. So it's like bad stinging all over. And they have large colonies, like 25 to 50,000. So when they take in your skin, they're not stinging you, but they're stinging. Right? Okay, take a break.
You had a question?
Yeah, I don't know if maybe you already covered this. Is there like a good community on the island that you're a part of? Or, like Trinibats? Is where all the people in Trinidad
listen, I used to be on Facebook,
And this is a
right? And there is a group on Facebook. Lena right now is the administrator of it.
We had a discussion
Yeah.
with interested persons to get a sense of what should be the next step.
Yeah.
What should a network look like? Should it be an organization? Should it be a lobby group? Should it just be
A
driven by
database.
a
Yeah.
database? Whatever.
Whatever,
So
yeah.
we've had that discussion, and I think we'll decide
Well, what you
the
can
next step
do,
is.
I don't know that.
Have you found any other groups in South America? Or, I mean, it sounds like you've been
Oh
all
yeah,
over, like, that are
Stingless
good.
beekeeping is big. Trinidad, not late to the party. you're doing no party going on somewhere. Right? I had people come down from Japan and sort me out that they were seeking stingless bee honey. Because in Japan, they have this company, there's a documentary with myself that was playing on Japanese TV. Went up into Lupino and we boxed a hive for them to see, and okay. They go all around the world and buy stingless bee honey from South America, Africa, Philippines, Australia, and each species, the honey is different. And the Japanese are into the stingless bee honey, it seems like the French are into their wine. And they want to, we don't have it all yet. There are industries all over, except in Trinidad.
Time that each species of bee makes the same honey because
Yes.
they go to the same
Yes.
plants.
Yes,
So then their pollen is the same as well.
basically.
So
yes.
the ones that make
this-
sweet pollen
this-
will be one variety, and the ones that make sour pollen is the next.
Yes.
All right.
This makes this has no acidity, no discernible acidity at all in the pollen. This is also the hardest of the Pitaka pagon. Right? Their honey is always, I've never found their honey to be anything else but crystal clear, like water. The Petit Angel has relatively sweet pollen. The Wano has very sour pollen. Very sour, and the Eric also, the two Melaponas have very sour pollen. So you can't eat a lot of it. You know, screw up your face like sucking a lime. Right? So you have to be very careful, and they are not diligent in keeping the hive clean at all. So reboxing and harvesting, if you're not diligent and the forest flies get in, that hive is dead. That hive is dead. The Petit Angel and the Cacapagon, you can be very sloppy and they're going to take care of themselves. They are very resistant to the forest flies. Right? So the pollen is going to take some work. But you can, once it's all been picked out, you can add more honey to it and blend it. And make a honey pollen blend, like a cream, and people buy that. Right?
And I've started a little half an hour series inside there of what plants are potentially useful and plants that are local that you should put in, which will attract bees, yeah, and birds and bats and all that sort of thing. It's information that's taken straight from the literature. Yeah, I don't rear any bees of my own. I'm giving you information as an academic, but there's a lot of information out there, and that's a key thing. Give me the first slide there. Yeah. Our key should work. We can skip this one. Well, save it. You guys were here when Dr. Starr spoke about bees and their background and who they're related to. So when you check in the literature, you'll see they reference Melaponini. Melaponini just means stingless bees. And of course, we have other bees that we know of which Apis is just one. Next slide. Don't dwell too much on it because we have limited time. Those of you who weren't here on the first day, so Star would have given you a list minus the species names. These are the species names again from Star and Hook. That publication is available online. Of course.
So things have changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tribuna Negra is now.
Exactly. So these have changed. They have changed. But the general and the number as far as we know, and of course new ones will get added to that. Hopefully when we do our survey. Right? So this is just a listen. This is the one that David was talking about that you probably may not want to entertain. Go on to YB's point. Right, for their daily survival. I've highlighted the three on top. I mean, they collect many things, but of course we know nectar. And that really is a food resource for them, right, for energy requirements. Of course, which they will then store as well. Pollen for protein and other nutritional needs. Because insects do need protein. Resins and other plant materials for nest building. And those are the three ones for plant products. Of course, they also collect water for cooling the hives and for metabolic processes. Soil and sand, because some of them do use it to build their nest, right? On behalf of all this. I don't know if Hamatoma is one of those that probably integrates a lot of
That's
the
why it's
species.
called Cacapagon.
Yeah. And of course, twigs and plant material as well. All that gets incorporated into these nice structures of the plant. So those are the main things that bees would collect when they're going out and forage. All right? Next slide. exactly is a resin? That's a textbook definition there. Solid or semi-solid, amorphous material, doesn't really have any shape. Yeah? Comprising a complex blend of organic compounds called terpenes. Good? It's soluble in water, but of course soluble in certain organic solvents. Yeah? The plant usually pushes these out from specific organs or tissues. It's not to say that if you damage the plant, it will not come out. And that's one of the main distinctions between resin and sap. Sap is sugary. Especially next time. Sap is sugary and watery. Yeah? Mainly transported within the vascular bundle, the xylem and fluid tissue. So don't confuse resin and sap. Two different things. And of course, sap not to be confused with latex. Yeah. We'll touch back on this when we start to look at the different plants and the plant families, and you'll notice some trends, which will become obvious after a while, because certain plants produce milky sap. Yeah. Certain plants have clear sap. Certain plants will have the resin, certain plants will have latex. Yeah, and we know about tapping rubber trees and so forth, right? Good. So when you're tapping the rubber tree, you're not killing the plant. So obviously, that latex has to be coming from somewhere different than the plant sap. If you're taking out the plant sap, the plant will eventually die, which incidentally is what people try to do when they ring a tree to kill it. And so, good. And usually you see a bulge developing on both sides. Yeah, as the tree tries to find a way around it. But, okay. So that's just plant sap. Going quickly. Alright, so I mentioned before that same text I showed you on pot honey has a section, a chapter, where they basically reviewed information from the literature. Yeah. Together with data collected from Africa at the time. So it's really a review of plants used in Africa, but also for the general literature for the tropics and neotropics and so forth, right? I've only put about 3 or 4 of these up. Again, you can check the reference yourself. Yeah. But what stands out when you look at that list is the wide range of plants that Stingless bees visit. Yeah. Of course, the authors focused on Meliconola, which we don't have, Melipona, Trigona, and of course, Apis is inside of there. Yeah, just for comparative purposes. And you quickly recognize that. So let's look at Apis. This is just the first set from A to thing. These are your Apis. These are Melipona. Who's collecting nectar? Who's collecting pollen? Yeah. Some of those plants would be from Apis. This is your mango, Avicennia. Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody grows any onion and that sort of thing. People grow onion here? Probably. Anacardium. That's the cashew. Yeah. Start to go down, you see some others, mango and hog plum and so forth. Tapira, good. Next slide. Bactris is even on that list. Yeah. List continues. Quite extensive. Camelina. Camelina, that's what you call watergrass. Yeah, of course we have Camelina elegante. But you take one like Camelina, for instance, and you go across. These are the little blue flowers that you see popping up. Good, all the time.
Oh, spiderwort.
Yeah, let's go across that. And you realize, no, go back. Go back. Camelina. Have I lost Camelina? Climber. Good. Nectar and pollen. But notice for ones like that, no stingless bee. Yeah, rather interesting. Again, based on the literature. Now this is where you have a little bit of conflict, because I have literature from Costa Rica that shows stingless bees visiting Camelina elegans. So what am I getting at you here? It's variable, it's wide. And in most instances, they simply looked at their visitation. When they're trying to elucidate whether or not they've collected pollen, that's because now they've gone into the hives and they've taken it out and they've analyzed the pollen. Yeah. They've done pollen studies. That's how they work back, so they know what plant they're visited and collected from. But that's not to say that you can't see a stingless bee that's going to visit a particular plant. It may simply be there to collect nectar or pollen. But unless it's actually been studied and documented, you cannot say it. Right? So what we can infer that it's there to collect something. Yeah. Move to the next. So in this document, you got about 4 or 5 pages. This is an interesting one. Gliricidia. Guy knows Gliricidia, right? Gliricidia. Oh, Gloricida. As the bastardized name we call it. Gloricida. Or quick stick. Quick stick. Right? You usually see it in old estates and so forth.
It's right
Is
there.
that one there?
They have a fancy
Yeah.
box right behind, if you look
On the
above,
left.
above the.
Aha, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's over there.
Yeah. Right camera. Nice pink flower. Very showy, very nice. Yeah. Cotyledons on this list because it's not only the bigger plants. This is a shrub. What people call shak. Yeah. Nice yellow flowers. When it starts to dry, you shake it, rattle and make a noise. Yeah. Bees love it. Good. Who else is on the list you might recognize? Cotons. We have cotons here. Ricinus. Well, nice castor plant. Well, we have Castlevanias, Cassias here.
We have several castings in it.
Shane, can I check something? Going back to our list, you said Gliricidia there, right? And is your table showing Apis
Let me see.
origin on that?
Go back. Where's the good? No, let's go across. Tree. Melipona is on it. No Apis. Of course, and that's why I'm going to text because they're giving you the references so you can easily check to see what literature. Of course, this was current at the time. I think this was done in 2013. Yeah, so that's what? 9 years ago? 10, almost 10 years ago.
Gliricidia is a big part of Apis.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they didn't pick up Apis. Right, so again. Alright, next one. We have one more. Who we have inside here? Utility, no, that's a palm. Agave, Bactrus. Grasses inside there, Mycenia, Verona. None of what you all might recognize. Jacaranda, even though we have a different species. Next one, I think that's the last one. I think I put more than. I put more inside it. Wow. I already gave you all a lot. Aldesia. Right. Mimosa is here. Mimosa is one of those that I've been recommending a lot as the sort of thing that you can plant, which will be seasonal. So even when the trees aren't flowering, bees will still go to it. And you see them going to it. You see Stingless bees as well. So a lot of times we focus a lot on the bigger trees and people are trying now because the bees will flourish based on the bigger trees. But you do have a lot of understory plants and roadside shrubs and herbs that are flowering almost year round. But those are the ones that we tend to take out. Therein lies the problem because that's a natural source of food for a number of bees, including Stingless bees. So what am I getting at here? You don't want to take out those nice roadside herbs. Yeah? And all this sort of stuff that might be invasive. Even though a number of them, you can do it out, but in the same breath, they are potentially good source of food.
So just to share a story from exactly what you're saying, I had this beekeeper who had recently started, have this nice big estate and everything. And this, what we commonly call white top. He would have it growing in his driveway and always have his guys cutting it down. Until you go early in the morning and realize everything was covered with apis because they were actually feeding on that pollen early in the morning, not during the day.
So that also points out something. It's observation that led into that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So while we may have stuff in the literature, people always ask me, what should I plant? What should I plant? Your eyes and your senses won't fool you. So if you're going out and you have an area that you're looking to plant stuff in, or dare I say set up your Stingless piece, and you just look early morning, late afternoon, you will see. And if you've seen something that they're going to, you keep it. Simple as that. Not rocket science here. There's a lot of literature that will probably tell you which ones are more beneficial than others. And that's what we'll come to in a bit. Ones that can give you resin more so than the others. But in general, a lot of flowers, a lot of the weedy stuff you see around, a lot of the local native ones are that too, because we have a lot of exotics. These visit. Yeah? And you see that when you start to go through the literature. Yes.
Melia siderata is neem.
Which one is that?
That neem, that ringing a bell, Melia and siderata.
Ah. What does it mean, boy?
That is siderata is.
I've lost it in my mind now, Oh, yeah. I'm taping it and you have to edit this part out. It's not going to get, but the one on top here, the crap again, it's the crapo.
Yeah.
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 That's interesting when you go across. So one of the things that's bees, no apis in that line. And go into Karapa for just now, 1, 2, 3 up. Go into it for pollen and not nectar. Again, that's interesting.
I don't know, something else to look at, I guess, is the date. Like, this was published whenever it was published,
Yeah.
but the studies were done in 19, I mean, that's 30
Yeah.
years,
And-
you
and-
know,
and-
like, it's going to be...
And something to point out, so they've captured the pollen information. So remember, they got the pollen information because they took it straight from the nest. But it stands to reason if the bee went to the flower for pollen, it may have gone for nectar. But of course, nobody observed it taking nectar because crop is a
you
big tree.
can't say for sure.
Exactly, so they didn't go up to the tree and look at the flowers.
Right.
They simply worked backwards from what was in the nest. And you can work backward as well. So I would stand to reason that all of the pollen column, the nectar column would go nicely with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, next one. Alright. So that being said, now we have a range, and the range is big. We're going to focus on a few, and some of these data are what you had on your slide. So as I'm going through, you can probably add or take away from it. Now I've left all of the plants in from David's list, including the exotics. I know we love the exotics. We love exotics. And about a third of the plants we have in Trinidad, out of the known ones, are exotic. That's the reality. Even things that you may not think are exotic, are exotic. And what I mean by exotic means that it was not originally found here. You have to be clear on the definitions. As I was telling the young fellow who was here last week. So you can't have something whose range would include Trinidad and Tobago, but it was never historically found here. It's not to say it can't grow here. And then you have things that are certainly not from this part of the world, but they've come here. Yeah? Obvious example is your mango, things like breadfruit and so on, that came with the Europeans. We're certain about that. We know where they're from. But for all intents and purposes, they become naturalized. What does that mean? Just like when somebody comes and they apply for residency here. They're here, and they have family and children. And
What are we not doing?
or are we naturalized? And in a real sense, what the plant is able to do is germinate, reproduce, survive, and continue, and so forth. Yeah. So, Dixon, still are considered exotic. You don't think it's naturalized. You don't see it as widespread as you would think. Yeah. People have it in their backyards and gardens. I have never picked it up out in the wild. I don't know if any of you guys have. Yeah. This is Boku. Yeah.
Most wildly abandoned. You don't see it.
Exactly, exactly. The challenge for us is that a lot of the estates up in the mountains inside the forest around. So you go inside and you see a mango tree or you see something like this, you're thinking, aha, it must be up here. But it's a secondary thing. Yeah, because a lot of forests right now, secondary regrowth taking place. And of course, if an exotic was inside there, brought in, it would stay. Yeah. So we have Dixon, next one. And run through them quickly. I see you have stinking tool locust on your list. Yeah? Now that's also on the other list as one of the plants that pollen is collected from. I don't think this is a resin plant. It's not.
It is a resin.
Resin plant for the bees. Okay, that's interesting. All right, next one. All right, the clusias, what we call matagal. Yeah, or wild onion. You guys go in the forest and you see it. Tends to look like a onion stuff. Of course, Clusia rosa is up, but we have a number of other Clusias in Trinidad. It is a big group. Yeah. Sometimes people confuse it with the ficus. Yeah. Kind of because of what the growth habit is. So just like ficus, Clusia can be a strangler, sort of a facultative parasite. They grow in their butt. It can start off as a parasite on the tree and go down and form its own roots. Of course, inside of there, if the roots are close enough to the original tree, it can squeeze it, and eventually the plant comes out and you just have one. So the clusias do that, just like the ficus. Again, resin tree. Yeah, David?
Yeah, so it doesn't
They
produce
call
any
that
nectar.
parrot apple as well, or that's a different one?
There's, yes.
That's
there
the
is,
same one, parrot apple, that I've heard. people
Parrot
say.
apple? Yeah, that's
but not Clusia rosea.
Is the bigger one, it's the parrot apple, or no?
So we have about 8 others.
Oh gosh, sorry.
There are plenty. And that's why you see, as much as I'm putting common names Again, it all depends on who you go out with.
All of them know colonies matter, probably.
Everybody
All produce
everything matter
flower
power.
resins.
Yeah?
All produce flower resins.
Alright, next one. Alright, Navia brasilensis. Definitely not native here, but came in. We have big plantations in the south and big plantations up in the east. And as far as we know from the literature, bees, well, I know apis, goes for the extra floral nectar as well. So I would speculate that stingless bees also visit that extra floral nectar as well as the nectar. Yeah? But of course, this is potentially a resin plant, is it?
No.
Not a resin plant. Okay.
That producing latex, and that latex is taken up by pagan. Yeah, I'm not sure if Patamona takes up latex, but pagan take up latex.
Right, next one. Cecropia. Yeah, what people call guacano.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite common all over the place, easy enough to grow. Huh? You have one outside there too, yeah?
I'm sure there's lots of them all
Lots
over.
of them. Just clearly land where to go.
It's right there.
Or there's a slight error on this, sorry. This exotic should be out.
Yeah, that should be an exotic.
Yeah, it's not an exotic. That's a typo.
They will go to the I think they will take some insect feeding on it, honeydew. They also take in pollen also.
Well, you have two things happening here. So you have the flowers. I didn't put any flowers up. There was the only photo I could get. But you do have an association of this with many ants.
Yeah.
Which tend to live on it. Yeah, the Azteca especially. But those ants aren't collecting honeydew though. That's the only thing. And I doubt that they're actually secreting anything else. So it's most likely just the flowers that they're coming from.
The guacano does make a high protein pellet.
Yeah.
If you look at the base where the leaf meets the stem, they have little white, tiny little white things, and
What we call little pearl bodies.
yeah, the I think the ants harvest that, but also cicada feed on them.
Yeah, you're quite right. In fact, that's the reason why Cecropia has an association with Azteca ants. They provide two things. I didn't want to go into that, but the nature of the trunk, they can actually hollow out and use as a nest, and then the plant itself is providing a food resource. You don't want to go too far there because then we go down a different road as to why the plant is doing that and why ants and so forth. But just appreciate that it's the plant's way of defending itself, and they've evolved and they've realized that, you know what, if I give them some food, just like how if I give them nectar, they'll come and pollinate a flower. If I give the ants some food, they'll come. And ants, by their mere presence, are very good defenders of any plant. Yeah? Some give actual protein reward, starch and so forth. Some will give sugar in the form of extra floral nectar. Because extra floral nectar is nectar not associated with the flower. It's coming out from some other plant part. Good. And then some will actually offer a house, a home to build a nest and accommodate the plant. Yeah? In the literature, you'll see the classic example of acacia and pseudomonas mix. One's acacia from Africa and Australia and stuff. Yeah. But we're not going down that road, even though that's very interesting. We should probably have a workshop on it. Next one. Myrtaceae. So, lumped all three together, your clove, your pimento, bay leaf, bay tree. Again, that whole family that's known for its oils and its fragrances. So I imagine they had the bees. Kajuka, you put kajuka inside here. Yeah. That's your wild nutmeg. That's your wild nutmeg. Virola. These all when you're going to all up on the east-west. Yeah. Or you go savannah, not you go savannah, or you go
You get it
Only
all
volunteers,
over.
right?
You get it right going to
Marina Forest
right up the
Reserve.
North Coast.
yeah,
Almost anywhere in
It's all over.
But what is the family characteristic of strong smelling oils and so forth? Yeah, strong scents.
abundance of flowers.
Abundance of flowers. Right. One of our resin plants. Yeah? No? Based on your experience.
I don't know how much resin it produces. It does produce a lot of sap, but I have this sap from it for medicinal properties, but I've never gotten resin out of it. What happens is when the kajuka are flowering, you get an abundance of flowers on the ground under the trees, and you'll see stingless bees on the flowers on the ground. So I know because I really can't see what's going on 100 feet in the air above the canopy, but if they're on those flowers, they must be on those flowers too.
Alright, next one. citrus, of course, and of course this is where it's either a pest or beneficial thing. David is convinced that it's not really a pest and it's something that's boring holes into the fruit itself. Next one. All right, naked Indian. I don't know if that term is PC these days, but we're sticking with it. Also inside this family, as you can appreciate, is your incense wood. Yeah? Your proteum. Yeah. Again, very, very fragrant and so on. Naked Indian itself is local, as well as the proteum that I mentioned. Frankincense is in this family, by the way, so we don't have any frankincense trees in here. That's the family tree.
I have the guy that came here with me when I did the first workshop, not in the series, the first time I came here, he has a frankincense right here in Freeport.
Really?
And he does landscaping and he catches bees with it because of Bigon. Bigon eating it down.
I wouldn't ask how he got it yet.
Yeah,
Not supposed to, huh? You're not supposed
it
to
was
do
a
that?
miracle. Alright. Alright, and we have some others here within the Anacardiaceae. So cashew, everyone is familiar with that. An exotic nonetheless. Next one. About 3 anacardias inside it. Mango, of course.
Shane, cashew is not indigenous to this area?
No.
Not a
South America.
Not cashew either. Oh.
Based on the literature.
No, I just
I
know
know.
the cashews in that group.
Naturalized. Yeah, this should be in Trinidad today. Because you grew up knowing it here, right?
It naturalized.
Yeah, we don't know why.
It doesn't go
But
away.
it is from
Yeah.
Central America.
It can be found there, yes.
Right. Okay.
But
Not more from
But it's
Serrano.
not indigenous to Central America, or it is?
I don't think it's indigenous to South Africa.
I was under the opinion it's indigenous to
Trinidad and Tobago, no.
No,
it's
no,
linked
no.
to the bioregion here.
No.
No, the Cerrado. I think it's indigenous to the Cerrado. The Cerrado in Brazil. The same place that the strawberry guava comes from.
Like the savannah.
Is where the
Yeah.
cashew comes from?
Yeah. Down there in where you get the fire passing all the time.
Because it's such a big thing in Asia now, but it's not from Asia.
And also what is I think from down there is what I know as Jamaica plum. The little red and yellow plum that's eaten with pepper and salt on the green. Right, I think that because that nobody thinks of those seeds growing. Needs fire to grow.
So what he's talking about is this genus, Spondius, of which hot plum is just one inside.
Yeah.
So all of the other things that you probably think in a local, and realize that's a big thing. So all your governor plum and your Ponzi tea and so on, all that is Spondius, but not native. More than apple, not
You
native.
call it governor plum, I know Jamaica plum. I know governor plum is the one you roll with the seeds.
Like
Guys, I'm serious.
And not series.
You sure?
Yeah, series is Philanthus. That's what I know as series.
No. So you see, alright, so you see, I like it. No, I like it.
Everybody
I
has
like it. No,
different names for
No,
stuff.
no.
That you can find in literature. The one that you roll
That's Governor
as
Cherry.
governor plum, you can find that in the
Yes.
plum. And you know why that has that name governor plum in literature? That is from India. You know why that has the name governor plum in literature?
No.
Because the people
Okay.
bring it.
If you plant 100 trees, you might not get any to grow without spines. Yep. Why they have no governor plum, the one with all the fine seeds in it that you roll,
You see, you're calling that
makes the
governor
closest wine to grape. They had a local guy that won a wine competition in France years ago, and when they found out it was that, they disqualified him because it wasn't a grape. Although there was no technical rule saying it had to be a grape wine. You know, the French are snooty, it has to be a grape wine, otherwise okay. The reason it's called governor plum is because it's the governor is the only man who would have that in his yard. Because you have to set so many seeds to get one that is spineless. Right? It had to be a big boy to have that. But that grows wild all over India and it's full of spines. If I carry you to a place in North Manchester with governor plum trees tall like that wallet. And the spines have spines. Long spines like that with round rows of that. And you can find that plum with the name governor plum in literature.
You see, that's interesting because what he's calling a door plum, I would say is series.
Governor Cherry is some locals call that.
And then
Well, I know that,
even in terms
I
of
know
literature, so that
people
is
not governor plum.
Eugenia. But you were talking about Philanthus. Now the Philanthus
It's the
is
sour cherry.
sour cherry.
Almost look like a series.
Like a little pumpkin.
Yeah, like a series. Yeah.
That's closer to gooseberry.
But that's Phalanthus acid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more closely related to your seed on the leaf.
Seed on the leaf, that's the same here.
That's a Phalanthus as
Yeah.
well. But you see how just the common names could throw us totally off, right? Because I would, in growing up in Tobago, that was not no governor plum. Governor plum is something totally different.
Yeah, but that's a Tobago name. The names in Tobago and names in Trinidad are different.
So that too. We have
And what has happened also is that the old people have not passed the knowledge to the younger generation. So the younger generation says something and use it incorrect.
Yeah.
Like I was having a discussion with people that the younger generation are people that keep birds, right? They don't know the old backward terms in the aviculture, the old aviculture. For them, a semp is a green female semp. The male is a female, the black and yellow is the female. Female means old male. So any male bird that has molted out into the adult plumage. So a black and red bullfinch is a female.
Yes,
You have your semp, you have your shant semp, you have your female, you have your tawde. All these, and the younger generations never pick it up. So those old backward names and
which then is why scientists stick to the
Scientific name.
go back to that. Yeah. But I want to point out here, so spongius is quite bombing, hog plum is native to here. But all the other spongius we have are not. The dulcis, like I said, the pomfitae, sorry. And the other things are not. So bees will go to this. Next one. David, you had this in your list and it just turned up in the literature as one of the resin trees. It should be obvious to anybody that this is not native to here, right?
any exotic.
Like, what the hell is that?
But you have people who have it in their yard, you know, a nice little thing, like a little Christmas tree and so forth. But of course, this family together with the Pinaceae is where most of the pines come into play. Interesting enough, Cherocarpus is not listed, right? But, so again, and a good source of resin, as you would expect. Alright, these that are coming up are the ones from the literature I told you about from Costa Rica, where they basically looked at plants that were growing in urban and suburban areas and on degraded land, and land that eventually became degraded. Yeah? So they were tracking both bees and stingless bees to see who was visiting. They didn't look at any pollen studies. But it shouldn't surprise you that stingless bees are attracted to what we call Baji here. At least one of the Baji, because they have plenty type of Baji, right? But Amaranthus pinosus, which is native. Yeah, that's a good sign. Next one. Coconut. And David, you had this on your list as well. Bees love coconut. They're always around coconut.
Any farm.
Any farm. They love it. They love it. But of course, coconut, I know, we're thinking Caribbean, we're thinking West Indies and tropical, but it's not native to this part of the world. I know, that's shocking people. But textbook-wise, it's not. But for all intents and purposes, it's been naturalized, right? So, feel free to plant it. Next one. You guys saw this on your way in. If you're observant, it's right there. Right? Cosmos.
Actually, most farms would be attractive to any kind of farm. It doesn't have to be a coconut.
Doesn't have to be a coconut.
Yeah.
I put coconut there because coconut at least has some other use for us. I mean, the other plants will, but people can appreciate planting a coconut and getting some nuts to eat and water to drink. They may not appreciate planting Bactris. Yeah, what's called Roseau. They wouldn't want to do Bactris, but Bactris is a good defensive barrier. This is small pine with the thorns sticking out. Exactly.
Good for fence.
Or Gugu and Gugu. Good for fence.
Brutal.
So, Cosmos, go back to the Cosmos. This is the exotic one. We have one native one, which you can tell from the color. Cordata, that it has here. For me, it's always tricky. I could only really tell them when they start to flower. Because when they're all green, all the leaves are generally the same. I mean, there are differences. But I have seen variations.
Yeah.
It's variable. It all depends on where it's growing. If you put it in healthy soil, plenty fertilizer, again, healthy, of course. But the flowers are usually a dead giveaway. Yeah? And you have others within the same genus. Right? The Cosmos is a nice one if you get the local one. Next one. You guys have seen this all over the place. Yeah, it is an exotic, but it's so ubiquitous. And its flowers year round. Little on the ground, you probably cut it when you're cutting your lawn and so forth. But an ideal thing to keep. You come out in the mornings and look, you'll see plenty bees there, stingless bees as well.
Apis.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Next one. Just a couple more. You know, we're tight for time. Tacoma. Everybody's seen this around. Yeah. We go to Diego Pui, nice and yellow. Yeah, a person like to put up gardens and use it as a kind of little. I see some business places put it out front. Yeah, flowers nice and so forth. When it's in full bloom, very nice. Again,
Is it nectar and pollen?
from the literature, as far as we know, nectar and pollen. Yes. Tacoma stand. Interesting one that turned up from the literature. Not as common, but definitely native. See a lot of it in Tobago. Bellyache plants. Some of you guys may know it.
Medicinal.
Exactly. So when I make recommendations on these plants, I'm trying to put in things that also have a little balance inside it. So this has medicinal value for those who know how to use it. So if you were to think what should I put in, there are plenty of local stuff. Just about as it is, you say that. But this one may have additional medicinal value. So you're killing two birds with one stone. Yeah? It's always good to have medicinal plants around. Yeah? Always good. So Jatropha is very good. Not to be confused with, there's another Jatropha.
It's real physical. The green leaf.
Leaves are green.
And more rounded.
Yeah, more rounded, and you see the red flowers coming on top. But that one is nasty to play with. I think that's Jatropha.
It's a true physical.
Why
They
is
have
it?
a couple of
Species
Jatropha down there.
is escaping me. But some people call it a ginseng plant because it kind of bulbous at the base.
No, that's a different one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a photo.
We have the real physical nut here. The leaf wants to look like the big leaf chaya. You know the two chaya? Right, they want to look like, a lot of people mistake the real Jatropha. Well, this is Pinot Rojo, and then Pinot Blanca is the white one.
The white one.
Right? This is,
Like the flowers are white. Thought you said the flowers are white.
the larger one, yes, it does not have red flowers. They have that up by me yet, but it's not as common as this one because it's medicinal, but it is it's more toxic. So you leeway if you don't know what you're doing. You know Trinidadians, every bush is
Well,
with everything.
The other one that I have in mind, I don't know why it's escaping me, but you really have to know when you're picking it and what part you're picking. Yeah, because the side effects are not the best.
That's why it's called physical. Make you vomit. Very dry, vomit.
All right, next one. Here's the last one. So this is Caliandra. You guys see it around for you. Popular. These are our native species, and I just put this here more for information purposes, because in an ideal scenario, somebody goes out in the bush, they ain't gonna tell the difference between the two. Yeah, but this is the one you see around a lot, the Hematocephala, but this is exotic. Yeah. All right. What? I have more. All right. The Residia. I think we touched on this before. Quick stick. Very nice when it's in bloom. Lots of bees like it. Lots of ants go to it, by the way. Yeah. That's not something for you guys to consider. And I think it also has medicinal purposes for those who know how to use it. Especially how to use the root. All right. Next one. Here's a nice one. Sweet broom. Now there are many things people call sweet broom. This is one out. But this one is called Paria dulcis, which is a native version. Very small plant. You could almost miss it when you're cutting. But again, from the literature, bees, stingless bees, like the flowers, like to go pick for nectar. And this will bloom basically year round. Yeah. You have any more? A favorite of mine, although it's an exotic, and in some countries it can be considered an invasive because when this gets in, this just spreads. Yeah? But this flowers year round. If I had to recommend something that was exotic, that I could live with, that I think is nice to look at and also beneficial, this would be it. Yeah?
It also bears a root, right? If you cut it down, it will always grow back. It bears a root, not very big, right? That resembles a cassava. That's how it's level.
It's like a little rhizome almost.
That won't grow back.
Or more like a small mini root.
It's like a cassava. Yeah, it's like a cassava. If you cut that off and plant it, it won't grow back. It has to be the head of what you cut off.
Yeah.
But that is just like a cassava, just storing food supplies for,
Yeah.
you know. But You can eat it.
Yeah. So this is pretty hardy, you know. You'll see in dry season.
That
this
is
dry
same
bark and
same
stick it on
family
like
as
that. Pop back up.
buckwheat. Same family as buckwheat.
Well, this is also the same family as your cocoa loba.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Fat oak.
Looking at this
No, no.
color, saying
Fat
but
oak.
not this
Yeah, fat oak and
color.
cocoa.
No, no, no. Fat buck is quite a balance. No, cocoa loba is your the big leaf in the forest.
Yeah, it's a thin tree with
And
big
like your
leaves.
sea grape.
The balum.
Sea grape. Yeah.
Balum, yeah, forest grape. Balum.
The forest grape.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's mostly.
Balum.
And then you have sea
Yeah.
grape as well. No, no. Guadam is a different thing.
Wallum. As the one that
Wallum.
grows straight in a stool with some big leaves. Big
Yeah.
round leaves.
Yeah.
And it bears a bunch like sea grape.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
sea
balm.
grape is also in this family.
Okay.
Polygonaceae. But that's cocoa loba unifera. Cocoa loba major is the one you see in the big forest. Hugely.
Yeah, I
And
know.
Saying the color but not the shape of the flower, would it be visited by coming with also?
Yes. I should have said something about that before. So we tend to generalize in terms of color and shape. Usually it's a good guide of what will come to the flower. Alright? If you see something that is tubular, like a little trumpet, chances are something that needs a beak or has a proboscis to go down inside it, what's going to go there. But if it's wide enough, a bee or an insect will slip in as well. Right? It's like the other factor to consider is when they bloom. So we distinguish day blooming from night blooming. Cactus open in the night, some of them, like your dragon fruit. Right? So you'll tell yourself only bees, or sorry, not bees, only bats would visit it. But the insects that fly around in the night, and you have moths that come out as well. So they are also potential pollinators. Right? So much like this, even though insects are most likely visited because of how small it is, and insects that can crawl in as well, it's not to say that a bird or something more opportunistic will come to it. But of course, a bird wouldn't get the volumes of nectar that you really want. Hummingbirds will hardly come to this. They would have to go to a whole set of flowers to get any nectar that would really value. I mean, they're constantly exerting a lot of energy each and every. But as I often say, the best thing is just observation. Yeah?
What I will add to this is if any of you all intend to plant this for bees, you're going to have to buy a lot of batchak leaf. I have been unable to get this to grow by me and Kumako. Batchaks love this. They love this. I have used tons of batchak leaf and still can't get it to grow.
Batchaks are tricky ones, and I can suggest a strategy which I think could work. I don't like to encourage killing of batchaks. Some potent stuff that, take it back in nest and disseminate the whole nest. But again, I think careful observation. You can probably offer a sacrificial plant, what I call a sacrificial plant, something that they prefer to go to. I just off the record, there is a school of thought that so batchaks are part of the system. And if you see them going after a plant, consider that they're like pruning, like when they call it in a local garden, because they are plants that they will pass whole night and not attack them at all. Now I know this is a bit out there, but the whole point is that they're really serving a function to the plant that we're not aware of. Yeah? By having to defoliate it. Now, you might want to consider maybe some of the stuff we're introducing here is so exotic for them that they'd rather take it out. So I can see a batchak going after this. I know it's a bit out there in terms of that thinking, but remember we're part of a bigger environment.
But it may also be, so I kind of believe in that same train of thought, and I've been talking to people in Brazil where they're trying to manage batchak. And what they've figured out is that batchak normally go into a system that needs pruning, so that whenever they see batchak attacking a certain area, they prune the whole area, and then the batchak leave and go elsewhere. So, but what happens is sometimes these vines are more pioneer species, and if they're growing in an old growth area, then the batchak will try and take these out because the rest of the stuff is old growth. And if you have this in a certain area where there's old growth, then they're actually synchronizing stuff that's all old growth, and anything that's new growth they take out. So, but if you plant everything new growth, then sometimes they will leave it alone. But it's a new science that people are talking around.
And that's why it's a bit out of the way, because the batchaks are really having to restore a balance, But of course, for us to appreciate that is for us to think a little different than we're normally used to.
Now, let me put in my 2 cents and let me tell you what I think is going on. I think people might be giving batchaks a lot more credence than they deserve. To be smart. You will find that plants, when they are attacked, will produce toxins. And it is known that you will see a batrak feeding on something, and then they stop. And they switch. And if you look at them in the night, it's starting to do a completely different leaf. So let us say that you have an orange field and they cut in orange. But all of a sudden they'll stop. And although there's a lot of other orange trees around, they will start cutting something else. I think what might be happening, I mean, we're all shooting in the dark, but I think what is happening is they feed on a plant and they change for two reasons. They're changing the nutrition base for their fungus, so that the fungus is not being fed on one thing all the time, right? And secondly, the plant has started to produce toxins, whether it's tannins or some other antifungal that will kill their fungus garden, and they switch to a new plant. These are all plants that might have grown up in the same environment as leafcutter ants, so they have adapted to the leafcutter ants. This is introduced. So this might be another thing that I have tried to grow inside of Kumak that I cannot get to grow at all is Chinese yam. The air potato, you know, the yam that it bears yam on the vine that you have to get that to grow, partner. And have all other kind of yam growing, but not that.
Which one is alluding to because an exotic.
And so they don't have toxins to recognize that the ant is cutting them to start to produce the toxins. Right, like they have acacias in Africa that from the time the gazelles start grazing on them, they start to produce tannins. And it drifts in the breeze that the acacias in the surrounding area start to elevate the level of tannins. And especially the acacias growing in the real arid regions, and the gazelles move on. So it might be that these just don't have any chemicals to knock back the batch, so they just feed on it until it's down.
So what's our
David,
takeaway?
with the air potato though, I can only grow it in one place on this farm, by that immortal tree. Everywhere else I move it, the batchak take it. But
what plant is it?
The air potato, the same,
right, yeah.
the Chinese yam.
And it's grown by what tree?
It's grown by the immortal tree there, and every year it grows up, and it makes a few, and it drops them, and I take those and I put them everywhere else, and the batchak lick them up. But for some reason they go over there. So I just leave it to grow over there.
The batchak doesn't attack anything else there as well?
It doesn't bother with stuff over there for some reason.
Alright, you know what you can try to grow it on, that I know that batchak can't take? 5 fingers.
But maybe the
five fingers. They love the 5 fingers, eh? They will want to feed on the 5 fingers, and the next one you see dead batchak everywhere. Yeah.
So we have lots of gaps in our knowledge, yeah? We know this. And that being said, there's plenty of literature on batchak. Yeah? After cephalotes and the others have been well studied. Well studied. Because they're very advanced and they're doing interesting stuff. The really ants that we know that tend
This vine here, the leaf, does it produce a sap?
I don't
When it's
think.
cut?
When you say sap, all?
White, a white
Latex.
No.
Because an indigenous Guyanese guy told me at the time when I told him I had a problem with batchak. He said it's one or two things. He was looking for the local chemical. He said, can I use this chemical? Put it out there and everything? Or you can plant sweet potato where the leaf sap. So you got the sap. When they come to eat at it, they call those
Mandible.
Right. Will get it will sticky.
Comes up. So
they
it's
won't
a
have
general
meat
rule
to
of
cut.
it's a general rule of thumb. That's why some families are less prone to attack. So you're more racy and you for BAC and so forth, like the Cotons. That's highly go for Cotons, even though they could. Even though they could.
Our batchak only take, but they only take half of it every year.
Yeah.
The part that's in the shade, they take, and the part that's in the sun, they leave for
Because
some
Cotons are
reason.
technically toxic. You for BAC families are
Like
toxic.
the whole plant has gone overnight and then
That's
they
the
grow it
ultimate.
back then.
So you wouldn't see them going after any plant that has thick latex, your balata tree and all this sort of thing. That's again. But that's not to say that the whole plant will have the same extent of latex being produced at the same point in time. I don't want to get too much into it, but just appreciate that parts that are more vulnerable will tend to have more, because the plant is really trying to protect those, just like with the resins and the gums and so on. Yeah, as opposed to older plants. If I have a batchak and I go after an older leaf that's on its way out, which has less of the white sticky sap. Yeah. Alright, next one. I think this is the last one. What time is tight? No? Did I touch this? Yeah. Capraria, good old GTFA. Again, medicinal, good for your eyes and stuff like this, you know, wash it and so on. kind of hard to come by these days.
Yeah, you don't see that.
Because I get today I could find, but again because a lot of people weed and cut and hack and so
Easy to
forth.
be eradicated with
Exactly.
herbicides.
Because a lot of times you're not leaving it to see the flower.
Yeah.
But it has a very nice white flower that stingless bees have been observed at. And again, high medicinal value. Yeah. Alright, I think that's the last one. Yes, that is the last one. Good, good. Any quick questions?
For that whole family?
Ipomias? Yeah, I didn't put any of the ipomias in. I probably should have.
Yeah, because that's native to the New World, different varieties. We have several native here.
Yeah. I didn't put in any
And even the exotics.
any of the cucurbitaceae for you and the vines and stuff. But we're gonna leave something for you to come to the webinar. There's more stuff. At the end of the day, we're gonna have a more complete publication because that's what we're putting together now. I'll just talk about that. A plant pollinator database. We're basically scoring literature and putting together all the information that we can find, which will include this all information into one location. Yeah, so that people can easily find it. So you don't have to do the research yourself. Of course, it will only be current as of this year, and then we need to put something in place so that it can be updated as we go along, because things are continually changing. Right. Any questions on anything I've said? Anything not too clear?
I don't know, either you or David could take this. They were going back to when David was talking about smoking out the bees or the smoke drugs then. Can you use mushroom, wild mushroom, as a smoker?
You want to get it deep?
No, because it happened by total accident. I wasn't even aware there were mushrooms growing underground to say, till I was burning some stuff outside my yard. And rain fell, sun come up, and the ground was still smoking. So I clear off everything. Why is the ground still smoking?
I don't recommend mushrooms to anybody. And you will see that there is a local site on Facebook that people are always asking about mushrooms, and the gentleman always turning people away because mushrooms are a tricky.
They're tricky to ID.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
The mushroom that you get in the tin, the little white button mushroom, they have a whole set that are also in that family agaricus, right? Like destroying the angel and all these things that will kill you at the blink of an eye, right? And they are misidentified in the States and Europe every year, and people die every year because they think that they're picking regular white button mushrooms and they're picking Pantharides or one of the close relatives in the same genus, and that's it, they're dead. So, and we have some, I don't know if we have any deadly mushrooms in Trinidad, but we have some that will make you very sick. So,
And we have some that will make you very high.
Yeah.
well, that too. I'm not encouraging people next thing.
There's at least two
They
species
come into the
that'll make you
colloquium.
very dead.
Oh,
There's
So
at
like I
least
tell
two.
the oxen, I don't say too much for obvious reasons.
they have
But,
certain mushrooms that are included in our Narcotics Act. That if it's growing there, it's fine for you to look at. If you pick it, you're now in trouble. You're not supposed to pick it, yeah?
Oh.
Right?
That means you're good to go.
So leave mushrooms alone.
Any other questions?
Very good.
No? Good. All right.
Zabaka. That's an important feeding tree for the Pitiangel. Zabaka. They're the primary pollinator of Zabaka. So you want
Persia
Zabaka.
americana.
Huh?
Persia americana, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on the list, sorry.
Right? That's an important.
I mentioned something.
And then all the resin plants. Stingless bees need resin plants. Forget just plants for them to feed on. They are major consumers of resin. So the clusia, you can grow the clusia, any of the clusia, you can grow in a pot, in a big pot, right? If you cut a half drum, you can put the clusia in it. So you need resin plants. So any pines, any of the like Norfolk pine, which is not a true pine, right? Simbaruba, the naked Indian, Hymena cubaral. What else? There's a tree down here. It's I can't remember the name of it now. They call it diesel tree. They're growing it in Australia now. You tap it. They put a bore into the tree and they tap it, and then what happens is
Acacia.
no, it's not acacia. It's a feeding tree in the forest for booty. It separates into water and oil, and you can take the oil and put it straight into a diesel engine or a diesel engine on it, right? And then if you're keeping pig on, you need resin plants. an important colony nectar source for stingless bees is a cactus vine. The name slips me now. It is it's on the base of the cactus family tree. It has leaves. It's a vine, and the other one is there are three in that family. They have leaves. Two are trees and one is a vine. It also goes by the name of Barbados gooseberry. It makes a big little cover over an arbor. It makes a little white flower like a rose. It's a day blooming cactus. You know what I'm talking about? It makes a sour berry.
Can we have it here?
I have. Go on Google and type in
In
Barbados gooseberry.
They call Barbados gooseberry the sour cherry. They call sour cherry Barbados.
No, this is another one.
In Barbados.
It has, you know, there's a cactus tree that bears, they call it Singapore rose or Mexican rose cactus. Look at it. Yep, that's him. First here. After that. Yeah. Barbados gooseberry. I have two small plants of that right now. I got them from a lady down south. She has it covering over our whole room. Right? And the thing with the periskia is it also makes a good bhaji. It's super high in protein, 25% protein. That whole family, whether it is the Mexican rose cactus, which is a tree, or there is another one, grandifolia or something, and then there's this one that grows as a vine. It's actually grown as a bhaji in more arid regions of Brazil.
Most likely I introduce.
Yeah.
Name is not.
Right? But when that is blooming, as you can see, amount of flowers it's putting out, that whole thing is alive with bees. Right? And a good yardstick to work with. If something is from the tropics, stingless bees will most probably go to it, whether it is from these tropics or not. Like mango. Mango is not from our tropics, but stingless bees love it. Okay? Well, this thing that you can use rambutan. Rambutan, stingless bees love rambutan. Right? Over in Asia where it comes from, they have stingless bees over there that are the main pollinators of that. Right? So if it is a real tropical tree, not like a rose. A rose is not a real tropical flower. So people have rose in their garden and it's not a tropical flower. But real tropical fruit trees, stingless bees will go there. But remember, when you're planting, remember resin. Don't ever forget resin. That is just as important for your stingless bees. Because if you're in a place that has no resin, but you have a lot of food for your stingless bees, you might get your stingless bees with the fly paper and stuff like that, because what is on fly paper is a resin. And if they don't get resin in one spot, you're going to get resin in another spot. So you gotta put in your resin trees, your food trees and your resin trees. Don't forget your resin trees, and that's that.
For those of you who have been following the webinar series, have you guys been logging online?